Hi, my name is Wyatt LaFontaine. I am doing research on platform algorithms such as Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. In a social world, how can the algorithm affect communication while also being legal under the United States Constitution? I have interviewed 5 Gen Z students that attend the University of Tampa on their perception of the algorithm. I hope to open up a new perspective on how these algorithms influence our daily lives and also how it's legal in the United States of America. Roll it.
I'm CJ Kraus, and I'm from Long Island, New York.
I'm Jeremy, and I'm from Trinidad and Tobago.
Hi, my name is Maggie, and I'm from Massachusetts.
My name is Kennedy, and I am from Big Flats, New York.
I am Vincent Pisano. I am from New Jersey. I'm studying at the University of Tampa, and I'm a third-year student.
So the algorithm to me is like what kind of pops up on your social media feed and what like different platforms want you to see. And for me, all of my platforms are pretty much the same besides TikTok.
I think an algorithm is just like what's on your feed and what the feed thinks that you like the most out of all the content they have on their like website or app.
In my own words, the algorithm is what decides what content we see on our phones. I think it's what helps us, not helps us, but helps the companies get us addicted to their apps. And I definitely think that there's a difference between different social medias. I think a good example of this is TikTok and Instagram because I follow a lot of the same creators on both apps, but the feed that I see on my TikTok is, I think, a lot more specific to what I actually like than my Instagram is.
So an algorithm is a process in which search browsers for different platforms, whether it's media, searching, or social media, that gives you automated results when you're searching things. It's different for social media versus news media because social media is about getting a certain person online versus news media getting information online.
I think my TikTok algorithm is like aimed more towards my humor, but my Instagram like algorithm is aimed more toward like what they think I like in general, like hobbies and stuff like
I
that.
feel like TikTok is just a completely different algorithm. Like I didn't have any control of it. It's kind of whatever video pops up.
Instagram, because it's American owned, they censor and cover up different things versus TikTok because TikTok is owned by a foreign company, not in the United States. So what gets censored is controlled by completely different people. The United States has no regulation on it.
So, we really don't know how exactly the algorithm works. There are a couple of theories, though. The personal engagement theory is a theory that the algorithm is curated through personal metrics, such as likes, comments, and amount of time spent on a post. One other theory is the identity strainer theory, which is thought to mean that algorithms know different social identities, and they target these different social identities based on race, ethnicity, gender, and different social justice groups. Does the algorithm capitalize on your self-identity by provoking an emotional response?
But I think for me it does. Like, so for example, if it's like a sports team that I like, I see products kind of like being promoted, it does catch my eye. I would be interested in it. So maybe at least it gets my attention in that sense. Um, wouldn't say like a great emotional response, but I would say that yeah, it does catch my attention.
I do definitely think that it does capitalize on emotional responses because of insecurities and things like that. They'll use anything they can to get somebody to want to engage with something more because I think a lot of people use social media to kind of cope with the way they feel instead of getting it from things in the real world. So if you're trying to feel things that you're lacking through social media, like positivity or like false confidence and things like that, I definitely think that your emotions are what influence that.
So it depends. If I'm watching something in like a video or seeing a picture, then yes, it absolutely does. That's why a lot of things nowadays are meant to be video form or picture form because when people see that, the visual perspective of that provokes feelings within you. When you're reading your news and it's just facts on a piece of paper, it's less about okay, what emotions are being provoked, more so okay, this is what happened. This is I can form my own opinion on this. So that's why I personally try to read my news instead of watching the news because when you read the news, you're just reading facts versus watching something that could provoke my emotions.
I feel like my algorithm does try to provoke an emotional response, but I feel like it doesn't target my social identity. Like I feel like it kind of targets all social identities, but if it hits the right one, it will provoke an emotional response for sure.
Yes, the algorithm does guide my beliefs in one way or the other, and I definitely say that just because I'm starting to like go to church and everything like that. So a lot of the time, like prayers will start coming up on my Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. So it definitely like connects with my beliefs.
I think that your algorithm is more of a reflection of the beliefs you already hold, and then it can strengthen those beliefs, or it can also change your beliefs. But I think that you interact with what you ultimately believe in, especially if you're in tune with what's true to you.
How do you perceive the algorithm to be legal under free speech?
How do I perceive the algorithm to be legal under free speech? Well, you're allowed to say whatever you want as long as it's not like directly false and it's not defamatory toward another person or another group directly. That's like a lie or something. But when it comes to censoring certain things or having certain search topics come up before something else, that's a whole separate issue. And technically, I guess it is legal. However, many people, as it's conceded nowadays, people don't like it and they want to just search up a video or search up something and just get a clean answer instead of having all this bias coming first. So, I'd say it's legal, but definitely a topic that should be discussed for future.
I'm not an American citizen, so I mean, American laws haven't affected me throughout my entire lifetime. Only really when I haven't been in this country. Um, I would say that I understand that that it is kind of considered free speech, because it's these companies are allowed to, I guess, kind of say what they want or like push whatever they want. Um, I guess the media does that too.
I believe every company has the right to like promote to different people. I believe though that it gets to a point where it's kind of too targeting. So then you're kind of like, what am I posting and what is being like collected in that data? So it kind of limits your free speech because you don't want everything you say to then be put into a platform and kind of thrown back at you.
I think free speech shouldn't be restricted, in the sense that it's supposed to be free. So it makes sense for like these companies to at least be able to push things because it would fall under free speech in my opinion.
So, a core problem is that social media sites have financial incentives to use algorithms that channel consumers into one way or the other. Companies make the most money based on a pay-to-play model, which means that things like clickbait makes more money for companies that use the algorithm. The more people that view something, the more they're going to make money. Facebook, for example, owned by Mark Zuckerberg, is technically his property, so he is able to put out what he wants and leave out what he doesn't. When something as technologically advanced as the algorithm comes into play in our society, it has an influence on millions of individuals. Now, regarding this, how does that affect voting outcomes when it comes to 2016, 2020, 2024? And is that constitutional?
I don't think it's unconstitutional. I know it sounds like it might be unconstitutional, but I just think that money and power are kind of what run the world. And so I think everything's influenced by how much money and power are in certain areas. So I think it's the same for technology and social media.
I do believe it's unconstitutional for social media to take control and kind of give you either the red party or the blue parties like promotional products. Like I know on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook there was a lot of political like propaganda going out and a lot of like fake news and everything like that. So definitely when you see something and you click it, you're like, oh, that has to be true. I saw it on Facebook. So I feel like it definitely drives certain people to different political views, which I believe can be viewed as unconstitutional.
Do I believe that is unconstitutional? That's an interesting question. I feel as though that, once again, definitely a controversial topic. It's definitely one that, depending on who you ask or depending on, which way you look at it, it can certainly be viewed as unconstitutional. I do know that certain times when you're looking at something like this, at the end of the day, just like with every other area of our society, it's a business at the end of the day, a lot of these, and making money is their priority. So they'll do whatever it takes, whether it's a loophole or something else they found to just get by in terms of making money. They will look to do that because it's a business and they have to make money. Unconstitutional, I'd say if you look really hard into it and like bring it up before a court, they could certainly view it as unconstitutional. However, we still have to be fair under our laws, and if it's not explicitly breaking a law, then it should be allowed to happen.
I don't think it's unconstitutional the way that like our feed can guide our own opinions, but I think it's more of how people should perceive it and internalize what they see. I feel like people can definitely learn to be smarter about what they believe and don't just follow what they see on their feed. But that's just a personal issue, not necessarily a constitutional issue, in my opinion.
Can the user be smarter than the algorithm, or does the algorithm direct their every perception and viewpoint?
100% a person can be smarter than the algorithm. I feel very confident in saying that because I think that people try to they try to blame what they're consuming, what they do, how they think. They try to blame that on other people, especially if they have a negative view or if they're addicted to their phone. I know that it takes a lot of intentionality, and I'm not saying that this is most people, but if you're asking if one individual can be smarter than the algorithm, they most definitely can be, because you just have to take your own power back and, you know, hold yourself accountable and be responsible for what you're consuming and how much you're consuming of it.
I do believe that the algorithm takes control of a person's viewpoint, especially when it comes to the different ads that are perceived like on Facebook and everything like that, just because at that point it's not your self-identity, it's what they want to promote, and it's whoever's paying them the most money to have that promotion. So definitely it's not just you, it's the company.
I always look at non-mainstream platforms first, and I always read before I watch, so I don't get any emotions in me. Because if you watch something first, then I'm gonna get these emotions in me. I'm gonna see videos and pictures. If I just read facts on a paper that are not from a mainstream, source, but someone smaller who's just literally just putting what happened, then I can get a better basis. And then when I look at other stuff, like the big mainstream things, I'm like, okay, I know that they're exaggerating this. I know that they're not including this because they don't want to let the public know about this. That's how I look at my sources. So yes, the average person can definitely beat the algorithm.
I feel like the user tries to be smarter than the algorithm, but the algorithm, I feel like, always knows what we're looking for, and they know how to like get us to want to click on something or how to get what they need from us. And I guess it just depends on the person, if again, like if they believe what they click on clickbait and stuff like that. But I feel like generally the algorithm is kind of smarter than the user.
Well, if the algorithm directs someone's perceptions of life, that would be horrible. We should always like have our independent minds and be reminded of that and not believe everything that we see, everything that everyone says. We should be able to question things, and we should be able to like truly like use our minds. Definitely not just like taking everything we see first glance or first hand. We should definitely. I think it's definitely detrimental if someone is controlled by an algorithm, especially something that is not human.
Regarding this topic, I just believe that you need to social media and everything needs to calm down with like the ads and everything like that, just because it gets to a point where I don't even want to go on social media because I know, okay, I'm going to scroll once or twice and then it's going to be an ad or propaganda or political beliefs, and that's not why I'm on social media. So I do believe that there needs to be a change.
I feel like the algorithm is just a really crazy concept of how it just knows almost everything about every user individually, and there's so many people on apps and stuff. It's a lot to keep track, and they always keep track of us.
I think that, as I said it already twice, people should read their news instead of watch. You can still watch the news, absolutely, but you should always read on yourself first. Second of all, trust your judgment. If something about what you read on the news, your gut instinct tells you you're wrong, chances are it probably is wrong. And keep in mind that the news, when you're watching a mainstream media source, they don't necessarily have to lie to you or say something that's objectively wrong, but they can still not include important parts to it and just headline a story with, whatever, for clickbait, for whatever, and people will be so drawn into it. Because people don't want to do that extra research to find out what actually happened, they'll just believe the first thing that's told to them on a big mainstream news. Oh, so-and-so network is shut, breaking story, this happens. And I feel like us as a society, we should be smarter than that. We should look beyond that, because like I said, it's money, making money at the end of the day. What's going to get them clicks and what's going to make them money? That's all they care about. It's a business at the end of the day. So always read your news before watching, and mainstream comes second to smaller stuff, and trust your gut instinct, because you can be better than the algorithm.
As you can see, all of the people that I interviewed had different answers and different opinions on how the algorithm affects society, how legal that is in the United States of America, and where to go from here. I hope this has opened up your perspective on the algorithm and may make you think twice about where we're headed.